Welcome to the show, everyone. As all of you know, I made it possible for everybody to talk about themselves, and I think everyone likes to talk about themselves, and we do it right here on the radio with everyone out there. And we're going to go into networking. We're live on Facebook. It's a funny day today. Happy every day. Happy Facebook. We're live here, so like us, follow us, and then you know what? After the show, I'm going to share it with everybody, and everyone seems to love that. I've been talking about that lately so much. How much everybody loves that Facebook stuff that we've been doing. I have with me my first guest, who is Michael Van Vleck. He is the owner of Denali Real Estate. Michael has been on my show with me several years, and Michael, you like to come on this show because you're educate the public, kind of like Property Management 101, what to do, what not
Absolutely.
to do. Mm-hmm. And then when you don't know what to do and you're not doing it right, you find out you're having mistakes, you end up calling Michael because he's there to help you.
Yeah, in most cases where folks call us the first time, in fact, I had somebody who called me today that found us on Angie's List, for example, and first-time person, never rented a house before. They're working to find someone to rent their house and manage it because they're moving. And so a lot of the stuff that we talk about here is the same things that I talk about with them. Like, what are the questions you should be asking? How should you go about this process of finding a property manager? What are the things you should avoid? The little hidden things that you should be worried about. In fact, we rented a house today from somebody who listened to the radio show and found us, called us.
Thank you for the listeners that listen and call in.
Great guy. He was a military veteran, so he just happened to listen to the show and had called, and we rented his house today. He's very happy. So
super.
Yeah.
I have to say happy birthday. I'm looking at
Thank
you.
you.
You don't look a day older than 44. And it's a happy birthday to you tomorrow.
Yeah, it's my 32nd birthday tomorrow.
No, yay, happy birthday.
Thank
I'm
you.
excited
I appreciate
for
that.
you.
Yeah.
That's good stuff. So let's talk a little bit about you and, what you do and what we're going to talk about today, Property Management 101. You say that the first thing that people really need to do is communicate.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is the number one reason that people fire their property manager, if they already have one, is they don't communicate. In other words, I will tell you this. I had a client that came over to us that he had told me, he said, I've been calling and emailing my property manager for the past year, and they've never responded to me. I've just been so busy, I haven't had a chance to fire them.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's
a long
bad.
time.
That's very consistent, the communication end, and it happens on both the management side, but also for renters. If you're a renter out in the marketplace now trying to find a rental, it's very challenging because people don't get back to you. You reach out about a property that you find and nobody ever responds, whether you email or call. It makes it really tough.
That's the world today. I find that yet no one responds. Nobody calls. It's not just in your world. It's everywhere.
It is. And the other thing is, I think there's this desire to automate. Everything, automate everything to make it easier, streamline it, save money, cut costs. And, at our office, everybody answers the phone. So we don't funnel everything into this bottleneck where, that one person answers the phone and anybody that calls in while they're on the phone goes to voicemail. We don't do that. We don't have anybody press 1 to go here or 2 to go there. It's when you call, somebody's on the phone, they can answer, and they'll help you through your issue from A to Z, whatever it might be.
The old way of doing things.
Right, and so the old way is kind of the new way. In other words,
not good.
It's very easy for me to have our system set up this way to sell against the new stuff, right? I mean, a lot of people just want regular customer service. And I feel the same way. When I call somewhere, I don't want to have to go through the automated system and have it tell me a bunch of information. I had to do that today with one of my mortgage accounts. I spend 10 minutes having them tell me all the stuff I already knew to get to the person I needed to talk to.
Well, you always have somebody there to answer the phones. I want to give out your information. The number to call direct, it's 480-626-4062. His website is Denali, Arizona.
And I would say this, every single client that we have has my cell phone number. We have hundreds of clients. Every single one has my cell phone number. Every single one can call me anytime. And I think that's very important. We have obviously other people that might be assigned to their account, but every single owner can always contact me. I'm very responsive on the phone, obviously. So.
Absolutely. I know that you are, because I needed you today and you got right back to me.
That's
I
right.
like that. And I like to make, is everything okay? I love that. At the end, is everything okay? Yeah.
Just
You're
want
on
to
the
make
air
sure.
today. Just make sure you know.
Well, sometimes, if I'm in a meeting, I will text and say, hey, I'm in an appointment. Is that okay?
But you always
Do
get
need
back to
anything?
them. And that's what I loved about that. So let's talk about number 2, which is the contract.
That's right. So a lot of times in management, you have to sign in a contract. So the Department of Real Estate requires any licensed company like us to have a management agreement in place. That written agreement is what really documents everything that you do and don't do. It's very important because there's a lot of things in that I catch. We have, for example, lots of folks that will call us and say, I have a manager, I'm unhappy, I want to switch over to you. First thing I say is, send me your management agreement because there's probably going to stick you in it, meaning they can't leave. So we've had clients that have wanted to switch and it would cost them a few $1,000s if they didn't wait until 6 months or 9 months or whatever. In our case, we don't do that, obviously. You can cancel ours at any time. I want to make sure that our clients are happy. They can leave whenever they want to. If we're not doing what we say that we're supposed to do, then they can go.
You know why I know that you can say all of these things? Is because your service and what you do is second to none.
Well, so I talked to a guy today that was inquiring about our services, and I was telling him this, and he's like, okay, wow. And I mean, we have hundreds of clients. And I told him, I said, every single one of those hundreds of clients can leave tomorrow. And I had another property manager once say, why would you structure your business that way? And I'm like, well, I'm not hiding behind a contract. I'm standing in front of my service. I'm like, they're two totally different concepts.
Love
and
it.
I choose this one as opposed to the other one.
His phone number is 480-626-4062. It's DenaliArizona.com. And there's always somebody there to answer the phone.
That's right. So,
I love that.
mean, I challenge them to call anytime. So,
And here's what it's all about. It's about educating them, right? It's
yeah, so
all about
that's
the education
you're
first.
Right. You're right. I mean, here's the thing. It's much easier to educate somebody, get them in a position where they can make a decision that's right for them. If it turns out that it's us after they have all this information, then I know that, hey, this is good and it's working for them. It doesn't make sense for them to pick us, but then it's not what they wanted or they need something else. So I'm upfront with people. I'll tell them if I don't think it's a good fit.
You have said many times on the show before that you're arming people with information to make good decisions.
That's right. So that's really what it's about, is taking that and giving them the information so that they can make those decisions. Everybody's circumstance is different. We don't funnel everybody into this consistent process. We customize it for what it is that they're trying to accomplish. So the first thing that we do when we sit down with somebody is understand what are their goals and objectives. If you have this rental property or you're trying to acquire one, why? What is this money? What is it for? Is it your long-term retirement? I have people that received an inheritance, so they're like, this is something I want to earn a little money each month. Some people are buying for their kids' college, right? So in 20 years when their kids go to college, they'll sell it and use that money for that. So everybody has a different reason. I think understanding that reason is important because you need to manage it accordingly. There's a bunch of decisions that happen throughout time that you want to structure for that goal.
We have 1 minute before we go to a break. Can we talk about the fees?
We can. One thing I would just say, probably if we only have a minute, is in terms of the management agreement, just read through it and before you sign it, understand those hidden concepts. The fees are part of those. There's a lot of different hidden fees in there. In our case, we only charge two things, which is a property management fee for each month when we collect rent, and then a leasing fee only when we have to find a tenant.
Well, when we come back, if we want to go into it a little bit more, we can. Michael is arming you with information to make good decisions. His phone number to call, it's 480-626-4062. Check him out on his website. It's DenaliArizona.com. So welcome back, everyone. And we're talking with Michael Van Vleck, and he's the owner of Denali Real Estate. And Michael, we've been talking again at the break a little bit about some of the things about how long you've been doing this, and
Right.
you've been doing it for a very long time. You started in, I think it was California,
Yeah,
maybe
that's
even
right.
some other, and it doesn't matter. In terms of it, I think what you've done is you've taken all of your experience, right, and you've come here to Arizona, and you give everybody the best that you can give them. And you know it for sure.
You're right. And so this is one of the things we were talking about on the break, and we were just talking about years of experience and things like that. And one of the things that I had told myself from the beginning is to try to keep a sort of neutral perspective on this process, meaning, when you start to get into an industry, you're just go at it, hard charging and doing everything. And sometimes you lose sight of the big picture. But a lot of times when you enter, you're usually, because you're smaller and more nimble, you're more at the forefront of the latest and greatest. As you grow, you want to implement those policies that let you continue to do that. So, for example, as you grow and get bigger, sometimes implementing the latest and greatest technologies is sometimes harder because you might be a bigger ship. So one of the things I've always told myself, regardless of how long I'm doing this, is to always make sure that we're pushing the envelope in industry best practices, that
Right.
we're setting the stage for us to be successful. We don't decide to do things because the rest of the industry is doing it. Some of the things, in my opinion, that are standard in property management, I don't agree with. I don't think that some of those things are putting their clients first. They get away with it because everyone else does. So if you're looking for a property manager, well, everybody's doing this, so you kind of have to deal with it. I don't believe in that. So that's why we kind of do it the way that we do.
And that what I love when you come on this show, because we literally talk about what it is that people need to know and understand about taking on somebody that's going to take care of your properties. I know we have a lot of investors that listen to this show.
For sure.
To listen to the station. And so, and I always say this when you're on, if you are doing it yourself, I don't think that anyone should be. I think there's mistakes that happen, and you get yourselves in pickles all the time.
For sure.
For sure. And if you also own more properties than just one, it's great to have somebody, like Michael on your side. How about a lot of people out there that they don't even live in this state and they have property here?
Sure. Most of the people who do it on their own, they do it on their own for two reasons. Number one is cost. They try to save the monthly cost of what they would charge us, and that I understand. And number two is they don't feel if they hired somebody that they would fight for them as if they would as the owner. So I think that those two, they're legitimate reasons. I think, in our case, that's why I say, look, if you hire us, you have you can fire us tomorrow. You're not locked into let us show you that we will fight for you as the owner. And the other concept is earning our fee. Earning our fee is not just collecting the rent from the tenant every month. I mean, anybody can do that. That you just need a mailbox for that, right? It's the other things that go on along that to keep you out of trouble, to make sure that we are collecting rents and little tricks and things that we do to make sure that happens. Those are the things that ultimately will put more money in your pocket in the long run.
How about keeping somebody in there, so that you have a good quality tenant?
Yeah, so the screening is everything. So in our case, we go about screening a little bit differently. This is one of those things that a lot of the folks in the industry will use certain things. They'll say, well, if you don't have a credit score of 650, we won't rent to you, or things like that. The reality is that that's a wrong answer. I mean, a good credit score is definitely a positive thing, but a bad credit score doesn't necessarily mean that you're a bad renter. For example, you may have large medical bills. If you, for example, have cancer, having cancer is no way correlated to being a bad tenant, right? So having those medical bills associated with that does not mean you've had a bad tenant. A lot of folks that have been through divorce have bad credit because of the divorce process. I've seen it a million times. Actually, most of those folks tend to be highly responsible people that just happen to be going through a bad spot. So there are ways to screen outside of that sort of general black box that you put stuff in and have stuff come out to actually find good tenants. And I think being able to do that is the crux of doing what we do.
His phone number again, direct, it's 480-626-4062. It's Denali, Arizona.com. Let's talk about maintenance.
Yeah, maintenance is the number 2 reason people fire their property manager, as it turns out. Most management companies have in their agreement that if there's any one item, $300, $400, $500 that comes up, the management company will just take care of it on your behalf. They'll send whoever they want to. A lot of them require to use their special vendors or whatever it is, and they'll do that. So if you have a couple items that happen in a month, you might be out $600, $700, $800 worth of stuff that you didn't really know about. It's kind of a big deal. Most owners don't like that. Most management companies have that in their process because it's much easier for them. Somebody calls, just send it to the vendor, who cares, right? Be done. Obviously, we don't do that. We call our clients for every item. So if it's a $20 item, $30, $50, whatever it is, we'll troubleshoot that with the tenant, get as much information as we can. Before we send anybody, we have a discussion with the owner, what our opinion is, what we think we might want to do, and then we send the vendor that the owner prefers, whether it's their home warranty company, they have Uncle Joe that does electrical work, or one of our vendors.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so it definitely makes a big difference. The part of that process and part of this whole process is the communication, right? Our process is different in that we are in a partnership with our owners, meaning whatever's going along the way, whether we're leasing a property, have maintenance, tenant wants to renew, there's problem, whatever it is, the owner knows what's going along the way, and we work together to resolve that by, whatever means. So we always have, there isn't any situation that hasn't come up that I haven't had before, so we use those situations to try and resolve it in an outcome that's best for the owner.
Let's talk a little bit about leasing.
Yeah, leasing's a big deal. I think our leasing is second to none. Obviously, you probably would guess that I would say that, but there's a few reasons. Number one, answering the phone, I mentioned, is a huge thing. That is a big part of leasing. We're the only manager that I know that doesn't charge upfront application fees. It's a huge thing if you're a renter, you're trying to rent a home, you got to pay money just to apply. I think that's absurd. If our goal is to rent this house, then we shouldn't be creating barriers for people to actually apply. So we get more applications because of that, which is good for the owner. That's really important. Going through the leasing process is really important. The tenant screening, as I had mentioned, you have to be able to do that well to be able to get qualified tenants. Our average tenancy is over 3 years. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, so we rent the houses on an annual basis, but typically most tenants renew, provided that they're paying rent, taking care of the property, and the owner, is going to continue renting the home.
There's always someone there to answer the phone. The phone number is 480-626-4062. It's Denali, Arizona.com. Let's talk about guarantees.
Yeah, so guarantees really are just a way of telling people, look, we believe in what we do. And, when you guarantee it, you say, look, we believe in what we do. We're going to provide you with a certain level of service. And if for whatever reason you're not happy, we're going to put you in a no-risk position, right? I mean, that's the idea. So the guarantees that we offer, there's quite a number of them. But, we guarantee the tenants if we place in your property, we guarantee them for 6 months. We guarantee that you'll be happy when you sign up. If you go 3 months and you're not unhappy, we'll refund your money. Those kinds of things I think are really important, only in that you want a manager to be able to guarantee you something, to say, we stand behind what we do.
Exactly. That's what it's all about. You can say these things because you know what you do is second to none, like I said earlier.
Yeah, that is important. There's without a doubt. Property management is not perfect. You're dealing with multiple parties in any situation, and when you do that, things are going to happen. You just have to have a way to deal with it.
Let's talk about flexibility.
Yeah, that's the number one thing. So if you're looking for a property manager, flexibility is number one. The reason I bring this up is most folks will have a process that's very specific. If you sign up with them, you get lumped in. They're going to run their process. If you say, well, I have a certain need, or I need this one thing over another, they may not be able to accommodate you. So you need to see if they're flexible in that way. I get a lot of requests for different things. We'll do everything we can to accommodate. I did have one gentleman I couldn't accommodate. He wanted to change our management agreement one simple word. And for legal reasons, I couldn't because it changed the whole thing. And I'm like, man, I would do anything. I just can't. That was the one instance I remember that we couldn't. But
right.
Normally, if somebody needs something, one of the things we do when we take on a new client is we go over those discussions. How do you prefer this? Do you prefer communication over text, over email, over phone? Is there certain times a day? We have clients all over the world, so as you can imagine, you can't email a client in China and expect that they're going to get back to you in 2 minutes.
Right. But and I just think that's what's wonderful about you. You've been doing this for a very long time, and you do arm people with information. That's what you're here for, to talk to them a little bit about what they should know. It's what you start off with the conversation with everyone that you work with.
That's right.
The number to call them direct, it is area code 480-626-4062. Check them out. It's DenaliArizona.com.